Hi everyone, welcome again. Modern cars are becoming more and more technological, and that of course comes with dangers and with new exploitation opportunities. Very warm welcome to Thomas Fischer, who has come today with a very pressing topic of car hacking, 2.0 protocols and connectors of modern cars.
Hello everyone, my name is Thomas Fischer, and I fell into the field in car hacking a few years ago when I were looking into networking protocols, and I was thinking, okay, everything gets more and more complicated, and I found out, oh wait, there is this deep pot of protocols and stuff which is basically from the 80s and moves us around every day. So yeah, it got more and more interesting, and I mean, we are now in a time where everything changes. Everything gets more and more software related. Still, everything between is still basically the old technology. On this talk, I want to go a bit more into how everything is interconnected, how modern cars are defined, basically, and how the transition between the old, basically, technology from the 80s goes into the software-defined car. Luckily, at the moment, we are in a time where we can buy something in the shelf, which is basically a software product which has wheels attached. So when you have a Tesla or something like this, this has nothing to do with legacy automotive anymore. It still has the same protocols, but everything goes together into one large computer, and not like Mercedes, for example, which has at the moment more than 100-something computers attached to it. So the complexity gets more and more into the direction of the software, and it will be really interesting if legacy car manufacturers will basically cut away all the old parts of it, or if they will, basically just surpassed by Tesla or BYD, the Chinese manufacturers, which are really strong in copying the technology. As I told you, it's really interesting at the moment, and so I hope you enjoy my presentation, and afterwards I think we have a few minutes for questions, and otherwise, just find me and we can talk again. So, the first thing I wanted to start with is the protocols, because the protocols, they will not change in the foreseeable future. So even in the computerized or in a software-defined car, we still have the CAN bus protocols. We have the LIN bus, because everything is there and everything works relatively good. How does a car look inside at the moment? We have a few different network types. We have the CAN bus. The CAN bus was basically the technology of the 80s. It was invented by Bosch for Mercedes-Benz because they needed the possibility to communicate between the engine and the transmission. And this was the start from 1986 for the CAN bus. It still is basically the backbone in modern cars. Everything which is blue is connected via the CAN bus. It's a relatively simple protocol, which is really cool in the way that it's really fail-safe in most applications. So, for example, it's a two-wire connection normally, but even if one connection is failed, it still works. And also, if there is one device in the bus system which stops working, it sends error codes, and the bus system itself, it ignores this computer, basically. So this is like you're on the highway, on the motorway, and you have a car which is crashing, and just it disappears from the road. So there are really clever functionalities. It started, as I told you, between the engine and the transmission. Now the canvas is the basic component for all the, I call it important systems. Like you have the brakes, you have the ESP, you have the engine and stuff like this. And there are also different types of canvas, and they also are interconnected. Then you have the LIN bus. This is much simpler, which we will talk in a few minutes later. This is an addition to the canvas, and it works, for example, for all the door locks or for the trunk and stuff like this. Then we have the FlexRay. Those are mostly in European cars. So, for example, BMW is really, really strong into it, and it has much higher data rates. But, for example, the Japanese manufacturers are not so keen of using it. So this is why, in the end, I have a few recommendations for cars for hackers, and this is why there will be no BMW, for example, because the FlexRay is, for a hacker, it's annoying. So, and we have a few alternatives, so yeah, we'll come to that later. We have also, at the moment it starts to be more and more into the direction of the networks. So we have, there are cars even with Ethernet or with 10 gigabit Ethernet. We will see. Also, Tesla, for example, also has it has only one computer, which takes the function of all of the small other computers which are in the old cars. But still the protocols are the same, and also, for example, you can have CAN bus error messages or stuff like this. So. That is not so hidden inside of the car. I tried to disassemble the whole protocols, how they are interconnected, and I think we just start in the left on top with the CAN bus. We go over to the USB, which is basically an addition in the most cars for the over the CAN bus for the infotainment. Most legacy cars only use it for connection to mobile phones, for example, or data storages. This is why when you have rental cars or stuff like this, sometimes you think, okay, it feels like I'm in the 90s because, yeah, that's what you get. On the right side, we have the LIN bus, then we have the FlexRay, and also we have Ethernet connections. So. Let's start with CAN bus. Where is the CAN bus used for? The CAN bus is connected to the audio system, which sometimes it is not clear in the first moment, but on the other hand, you have, for example, you're driving with your car and your music gets louder. This is because it's connected to the CAN bus, basically. So you have different companies which have also different applications, so yeah. Also, the CAN bus is the instrument cluster. This is also when you have errors on the CAN bus related to the instruments. This is really annoying. So, for example, Volkswagen has a lot of cars which had at the beginning, when they started, a lot of problems with that displays failed, or it was just. It's shown something on the instrument which you didn't want to have. So. Also connected is, of course, the airbag system, because, we don't want to have the possibility that it fails. So this is why this is really one of the most important connections, also with the ABS and the whole braking system, because those are really vital parts, and the CAN bus is really reliable on this level. Cruise control, also basically like in the audio system, you need the input from your engine, you need the input from the steering wheel, and everything like this, which is basically related to control your car. This you want to have on a really reliable protocol. So, and there the CAN bus is really working with. Power steering, of course, is the same. USB, as I told you, this is just a connection to the infotainment in most cars. Basically, it's just a USB stick, and it is just a connection for your mobile. So it depends also on what the manufacturer of your car also gives you the possibility. But I really, always when I have a rental car, it's always interesting that you always see, okay, why is it not just working? And this is because the development cycles in a lot of companies are really over 9-10 years. And when you think back at this time, USB sticks were also not so working like now. Coming on the right to the LIN bus, local interconnection network. Basically, it's a simplified version of the CAN bus. It has, but it has thrown away all the fail-safe mechanisms. So it is really just to give input to some devices. For example, for the lights, switch them on, switch them off. For the mirrors, how they move for the different axes. So it is really not so complicated. Same like with the locks or with the trunk. It just has to work. So if it works immediately or if it works in, I don't know, 20, 30 milliseconds later, it really doesn't matter in most of the parts. Windows, of course. We always want to have the different windows. There it's interesting, for example, most cars have a controller for the LIN on the right side for the right seat and on the left for the left seat. So, but they are connected via the CAN bus. So the message goes from the LIN controller over the CAN bus to the other LIN controller and then switches the other window up and down. So they don't have two controllers. It is enough to have one via different gateways. Seats also are at the moment really standard. And FlexRay. FlexRay was the first application I know of from fiber optics inside of the car. As I told you before, BMW was really, really one of the driving forces behind it, because they really started early by seeing, okay, the data we can send over the CAN bus is just not enough. And so they were looking for different new approaches, different new ways. And they said, okay, we have premium cars, so fiber optic is really reliable. It is working really good. Because, for example, Ethernet connectors are not reliable enough for in most car applications. Because the movement from the connectors, this is something network cables really don't like. And so with fiber optic, it's much easier to have a reliable connection, even for, 10 years or something. It's not like when I have a network cable in my home, I can replace it every 2 years or something. But when I have a car which is 8, 9, 10 years on the road, and it doesn't matter if it's in Alaska or if it's in Southern Africa, it has to work. And when we see how many car components are not working, we see really, okay, this is really a serious problem. Steering wheel control. Also, we've seen it on the CAN bus before, but also the data is just not enough on the CAN bus for the modern application. If you have, for example, some, I try to avoid the word self-driving car. So if you have lane assist or something like this, and it makes a huge difference by what manufacturer your car is providing you. Because there are one or a lot of them where you just think, okay, damn it, it should not like in a computer game from the 80s. It should work like a smooth ride. And then you have other car manufacturers which are just smoother than, I can drive myself. So Also, the data or the data bandwidth is really important, and so FlexRay also provides it. But as we will see later, most or a lot of Japanese manufacturers are just saying, no, this is just too expensive. So one or the other. Same safety components. You don't need a lot of bandwidth there, but also, I mean, fiber optic is speed of light. So you have really not so many delays. So this is why it's really important, building block for the safety components. Also with the active suspension, if you have a modern SUV or something and you see, okay, I can ride on the Autobahn or something and I can change my ride size. And it basically works just immediately. When you think about how many parameters the car has to exchange, this is really impressive. Now we're coming to the Ethernet. This will be, I think, in a lot of parts the future, because the problem with the connectors, yes, it is a problem, but on the other hand, it's a problem which you can throw a bit of money on it, and then the problem is much less. So we have really reliable Ethernet connectors in an industrial area or something, so I don't think that it's possible to avoid it. Also, we have standard protocols. I mean, Ethernet, it works. I mean, we have the internet. We have basically every one of us uses it every day. And why shouldn't it work in a car? Just because 20 years ago, when they designed or started designing a car, it was not there. This doesn't mean that it's not working for this application. So I think it really will get more and more. And yeah, we will see. Also, with this also can take for the part of the dashboard of the instrumentation. Also there, the more bandwidth you have, the better you can give the data back to the user, to the driver. I mean, if you have a heads-up display or something like this, and you don't have to look away from the street, this really is a real plus of the security or of the safety. Or also, if you have for example, also with the Tesla, when you change the lanes, you have a really, really, really strong camera view from the left or from the right, depending on where your indicator is used. And this is a amount of data which is just not, it's just not possible with the CAN bus. Also, sensors are getting more and more. I mean, also it will be interesting in the future if the LiDAR and radar sensors are the future or the camera-based systems, because the software is getting much more better, and software has the advantage that the more trained data I have, the better my system gets. If I have a sensor which is, I don't know, 5,000 to 10,000 euro per sensor, this is just not possible to throw out to everyone. It will always just be in the premium segment, and so we will see who wins the fight. So, infotainment also, when you stream, I don't know, The Lion King to your children on the backseat, it makes a much smoother ride. Let's call it like this. But also, you need the possibility of using the data. Of course, the cameras, also we will see a lot of improvements there in the last years. And most of the improvements are based also on machine learning and new algorithms. So it is really impressive what even not night vision cameras at the moment can show for great images. So we have gateways. So all of them are connected via different possibilities. So a lot of gateways are connected to the CAN bus. So for example, the LIN is is seen as a connection to the CAN bus. So it uses the CAN bus for transmitting all the information, like I said to you before. When the right driver or the second seat changes what's on the driver's side, something like this. Also, the amount of computers is limited in most of the networks, so we can just use gateways and make another network inside of it. So, for example, most cars have one CAN bus for the engine, for transmission and stuff like this, and then there's another one which, for example, has the steering wheel and stuff like this. All right, now we are going a bit more into the different types of the protocols. Let's start with the CAN bus, because as I told you, it is the oldest system which is still in use, and it is really, really reliable. So on the left side, you see an old Mercedes. There was this area here. There was a sticker. On the sticker was written, "This is not the battery." This was not the battery because this was the CAN bus. So the whole CAN bus with the whole controller cards, everything was exactly or basically the same size like a large battery. And if we compare it with this one, this is maybe 2 centimeters high and maybe 3 centimeters wide. This is a modern transceiver, which even has higher data rate, has more modern CAN bus protocols, and it really works. So the time changed, and also Mercedes wanted to use it in the S-Class, in the W140. This was the Mercedes which got famous with Lady Di and her accident. But they were not sure if it works. So there was the E-Class before. This was the E500. And it was 87 or 88. And they started to have the same engine like in the S-Class, in the E-Class. So they said, okay, there is one limited edition, basically. It is the E500, which has also a 12-volt engine, like in the W140, like in the S-Class. But they wanted to be sure that it's working. Okay, it worked. So now we have the CAN bus. How is the networking side of the CAN bus? It is relatively simple. We have 2 wires. This is here in the symbol. And we have 2 terminators. We have 2 resistors on both sides. So we have this cable, which goes through the area we want to have. And on both sides, there is a resistor, which terminates the network. We have from the different computers, they called node. And this node also can have the terminator inside of it. So, for example, I've later in the car hacking workshop, I have the terminator inside of the CAN node. So there is a dip switch, which I can put there, and then the first device also plays basically the terminator. We can have different nodes on it, obviously, and also it depends on how many devices we have and for the speed. The maximum speed is 10 megabit per second, so it is not really a large speed, but it really works, and it is really enough for most applications. We have a lot of changes. Okay, basically 2.5. The first change was they found out that maybe we have a protocol which has no timing as part of the protocol, which is not so the best idea today. So because when I have no timing, I can't have any authentication, I can't have any security, basically. It is just a protocol which just talks to all the other devices, but it's really, really open. So this was the first addition. And also now they've they made a new standard for the XL, but I don't know yet when it will be published. let's go to the Linbus. I was reading a master thesis a few weeks ago, and they said, okay, the Linbus was before the CAN bus, which is not right, because the Linbus was afterward. It was basically a simplified version of the CAN bus. So we have a low performance, low reliability. We have a single wire, and also we are connected to the CAN bus. Sounds a bit not intuitive to have a protocol which is explicitly with a lower performance, but it is really enough. When I have just a window which should open or close, why do I need a sophisticated protocol? It is basically a switch, and this is also what the Linbus is basically doing. Still, we see a lot of different points where the Linbus is getting used. So basically from the lock, from the seats, from the trunk, from the front. It has its place, and it is cheap. And after I have only one wire, it is really simple also for the manufacturer to include it inside of the car, because one wire and ground, then it's just easier. Started in '99, so yeah. Also interesting is most large auto companies have been part of the LIN consortium from the beginning. So Volkswagen, BMW, Volvo, I think Mercedes, and 2, 3 more, which I can't remember. Sorry. We have the protocol is really, really simple. We have a header, or we have a header part, and we have a data part. We have it with the checksum, so it is, yeah, it works really good. And also, it mostly works via broadcasting, not via direct addresses. Even they have addresses, but the most part is just using broadcast. Coming to the connectors. Connectors are, I was focusing a bit on the connector to the user side. And basically we have, the most important is the OBD-II, onboard diagnostics part number 2. This was invented because the cars needed much more regulation for the environment, for the catalytic inverter and stuff like this. OBD-I was the predecessor format, and this could be anywhere in the car. So it was possible that the OBD-I connector was somewhere hidden in the front or near the engine or whatever. They tried, or the regulators were saying, okay, no, we don't want to have it with the OBD-II. It has to be accessible for the user, so it has to be maximum 2 feet, so 60 centimeters away from the steering wheel. This doesn't mean that it's really easy to get to it. So for example, Volkswagen Touran, you have to remove the plastic from the dashboard on a few parts to get to it. I mean, still, technically it's closer than 60 centimeters, but still it is a bit annoying when I have to brake my car just to get to a connector. So yeah. It is mandatory in the European Union since 2001 for the petrol. Diesel came a bit later. Also, I found it is interesting that it started for the cars with a maximum of 8 seats. So I'm not sure if with the 9 seat. So the great thing is it is a standard, and there are a lot of diagnosis devices on the market. And now there are. It is really. You can get for 100 euro or something a diagnosis device, which is really, really awesome, because they are really. it just depends on how many they sell. The more they sell, the better are the data you get as a customer. And at the moment, a lot of Chinese companies make these devices, and they are really, throwing out millions of them. So it is getting better and better. The canvas is directly connected to the OBD. So this is also the way later in the workshop we are using to connect to the canvas. Now we are coming to the part where electric cars don't have emissions. And when they don't have emissions, they also don't need the onboard diagnostics part. Luckily for Tesla, for example, you can retrofit it. They have all the main cables behind in the middle between the seats. And there is just one plastic on top of it, one cover, which you can remove. And you can insert, you can bypass the cables, and then you have your OBD port. It works really, really great, and it is really simple. Also on Tesla, those plastic connectors, they are really strong and they don't break so fast, which is really cool. Because and before we had a Toyota, and I have a large amount of additional plastic connectors to replace broken stuff. As I told you, you have to remove the plastic lid. You can bypass the cables, and then you have your OBD port. It works with all the dongles which are on the market, but still, basically it depends on what app you want to use. You just should check if it's comfortable. Also, you're connected to the canvas, and also you get the same messages, but you got it on an app, and it's really, really much more comfortable. Now I'm coming to the next part. When you want to have a car as hacker, what is a great car? It really depends a bit. When you want to have, when you say, okay, I don't want to have something which has an event data recorder, I got bad news from you, because event data recorder are next month mandatory in European Union. So from next month, every new car has a black box, basically. The good thing is only the manufacturer can read it, and I mean, we all know how trustworthy the manufacturers are, so nothing to see. The next, when you don't want to have the SIM card in your car, also same bad news. This is mandatory since 2013. So every car has a SIM card and has this in the same way, this extended 911. So it's basically traceable for nearly around 500 meters. So also, it's good to have an old car, older than from the 70s, because in the 70s it starts to, the data got into it. Also, you don't have injection systems or something which can break like this. So, but I start with the last point. The ecological footprint of old cars, there's a reason why they are not there anymore. Also, old cars, when they are good, you basically end with some luxury cars or stuff like this. And the price tag is really, really incredible. Of course, luxury cars, also the old one, they feel much faster than the new one. So, because starting from the tires and to the transmission to the suspension, everything is much more direct, much more, it feels much more sporty, even if it's much slower. Now we are coming to the next part. There is the Comma AI project. The Comma AI project, it's from an American hacker, which is really an awesome project. So they said, okay, we have all the data inside of the car, which we need to make a full self-driving car, basically. So we have lane assist, which is really working awesome in some parts. We have everything we need, and they open source the project, they open source the hardware. And so in Google for AI, and I really, yeah, it is a rabbit hole. And the great thing is a lot of Japanese cars really work for it. So, for example, the Toyota Corollas are really good, or even the hybrid, it doesn't really matter for this. So you can make your own self-driving car for relatively least amount of money. The great thing is Toyota, they didn't go really onto the FlexRay system. So also for the hacker, it's really cool because we really can get a lot of access. Toyota is, this one is really, it has everything basically you need. So a lot of European cars have the problem that they are, you can't steer them with speeds lower than 30 kilometers per hour, which is a bit annoying because you have your full self-driving car, and when you drive slower than 30 kilometers, the car says, oh, wait, I don't know what I'm doing. So this works really cool. I told you before, we have now the software on wheels. Luckily, Tesla also made the library for free. So even if you don't have a Tesla register account, go to the technical documentation because they have all the CAD drawings and everything. So it's really amazing when you just see, yeah, it is a software project. It is not some 20 or 30-year-old car technology. It is really, it is the modern way. Recommendation for the hackers, check the performance. Because with you have the track mode, and with this you can change the, you can completely change the physics of the car. You can make rear-wheel driven without ASP and stuff like this, which is just not possible. So if you call Audi or someone and says, oh yeah, but I want to have a sliding car, and they say, of course, but here's your risk, and yeah. And with this one, it's you get it just as part of the package. Yeah, I mean, of course, Teslas lose energy by driving not driving, because you have so many electronics inside. But you also can switch it off, and then it really it keeps over 1.5 months without recharging. We tested. Here, this is one of the slides where you can see how detailed the information is. So you really, you can go back to the cell level with the information which you can retrieve. And I think this is really awesome. When I compare it with how less data I got in the Toyota out of the CAN bus with the sniffing devices, and if I compare with this one, it is awesome. You have, you can see really how much regeneration you have. You can check every cell. You can see how much capacity you have, and this is only from the battery side. The same is on the driving side. So you can see in real time, okay, how much power is given to the front motor, to the rear motor, and stuff like this. So, yeah, for hacker, I think this is the way to go, because software is, I think, much easier to go to than basically the protocols from the ISIS. All right, so I'm coming to the end of my presentation, and I think we have a bit time for questions, or?
So any questions? It will be hard to reach you. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Do you have any advices on injecting packets into the byte flight or all the fiber systems? Other than, I know I've seen papers where they manage to half snip the cable and read the packages as they're going. But do you have any clever way to connect to inject your own messages into that?
It works the same way, basically. So you start with a sniffed package, and then you modify it. So the canvas packages are really structured. So the first part of the package says, for example, what type of transmission it is, if it's from the engine.
Yeah, but do you inject it from the CAN bus side, and then it goes through the router and into the byte flight?
Into the?
In the byte flight, or the... It's the fly, what's it called? The
gateway?
The fiber systems from the BMW.
FlexRay.
Yeah, byte flight and FlexRays are
easy.
One on the other.
I told you before, I don't like cars with FlexRay. Because FlexRay really implements some clever ways of security. And also fiber optics is much more complicated. So my tip is buy a Japanese car, because they don't care.
Okay, so just go from the CAN bus because it's easier to inject.
Yeah, or otherwise, check if it's possible to go over the media interfaces. Because sometimes there you also have, basically network connectors. Okay. And so everything from the network side works. Thank you.
Hi.
I'm relatively sure, but I didn't find anything in the proposed draft. But the canvas is the backbone of the car still, so it will be the easiest way. So.
Even for now, most cars are having airbags, and the airbags is recording some data about the 5 seconds between the event of firing the airbag. Are those data available through the canvas as well? If you are hacking the car, can you get into those data and read them, for example?
It depends. So yeah, in theory, yes, because it is still the canvas is open. But I told you before that we can have different networks interconnected through gateways. So you need exactly the right wire. So
Companies are able sometimes to fetch those data. And I was wondering, are they using OBD-II or?
No. I think they bypass the cable. I mean, it is just electrical cable. You just can solder some bypass and everything is fine, as long as you are between the two resistors, which terminated. So, but find me in the workshop room and I can show you some device.
Hi.
Hi.
So it was really nice hearing about all the problems that you found, or all the attack vectors that are there. Were there any incident or event you were involved in that had, like in particular, car hacking scenario that was interesting that you can share?
To be honest, I took my car because it's it is my responsibility. And further from, okay, I have to remove all the power and wait that it reboots. I'm very lucky that I didn't break anything. But because, it is the old protocols. Yeah, you don't have any security.
Were you able to remotely control the car, or remotely turn it off, or I don't know, cause something?
No, I got always access to directly to the canvas. I didn't take this side, but also the media interfaces are the way to go. So, for example, there's this 2 American hackers also. They used the VIN number from Ford to find different,
So there's a lot of automotive solutions like, Argos and other companies like Cymotive and so forth in Israel, I can say, that are specializing, in the CAN bus and how to protect it, how to protect the protocols, although they are very insecure. Would you consider them as a good layer of protection, or just a spin-off of startups trying to make their way to be a unicorn?
A good question.
I know. Take your time.
On the one hand, I mean, it's still the underlying protocol is from the 80s. So you can't change this. So everything is just a layer on top of it. And when you learn anything from IT security, then putting a security layer on top of an existing system never works great. It works okay, and it works sometimes. But it will never be great. So yeah, I mean, of course, you can, for example, check that the amount of nodes inside of a canvas area is stuff like this. So if you say, okay, the power drops for, I don't know, some millivolts or something, and then you can say, okay, wait, there is some device which is not, doesn't belong there, something like this, but still it's protocol from the 80s. Exactly, exactly. Welcome.
Thank you.
There are car theft prevention systems called CAN jammers. I assume they effectively jam the transmission over the CAN network. Do you have any thoughts about them? Could they be effective?
Of course, they could be effective because there is a market for it, but also it is the same answer basically. You have a security layer on top of an existing system. So when they do something really wrong, the canvas normally protects itself by just switching this device away. So I don't know how they disconnect basically the devices which should talk to each other on the canvas. So it really depends on this.
Maybe in the microphone. Yeah, because we are recording.
I'd like to ask about FlexRay. Is there any known technique to man-in-the-middle attack the FlexRay?
It is fiber optic, so and it has some protection over it. To be honest, it's just too complicated at the moment because I'm not sure if it will be there in a few years. Okay, yeah, of course, as long as BMW existing, but Ethernet also, I think, is taking more and more the place.
Yeah, but are there any known, can you buy some device to build your own node to attach your device into FlexRay network?
I didn't know from any of it. But also, I know that there are companies which are really specialized for law enforcement. I don't know what they have on their sleeve. But for the standard hacker, I think Canvas is the way to go. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, hi Marcus. Thank you for your presentation. And just one question. I was trying to play a little bit with this canvas on my wife's car.
Good choice, good choice.
And it was 2005 Nissan Micra, and it works like a charm. I was able to sniff anything and even reply anything. But then I tried to do the same in my Volkswagen Tiguan 2021, and it was actually unable to detect nothing, literally nothing. So is it the case that I forgot about something, or is it the case that Volkswagen has something in addition?
As I told you also before, the German manufacturers, they love to make simple tasks really complicated. So I know, for example, Volkswagen really soon started to use the dashboard with the canvas, which made create a lot of interesting effects. So I think it's just you're not in the right area for this, or in the right network part, because yeah, as I told you before, you have different canvas networks, and depending on where you want to send your packets, they don't achieve it. And also, Canvas is a bit, the addresses are basically the security feature, which always works perfect when I can sniff everything, but yeah. So you have to sniff also on the Volkswagen, check the addresses of the nodes, can replace the part from the Nissan and re-inject it. But Japanese cars are better, so keep the car of your wife. Thank you very much.
Thank you for presentation, and I can can't wait to see you on workshops. But I got a question about the OBD-II versus Canvas. I mean, is OBD-II limits messages or somehow transmission versus raw Canvas, or it's only and there are only limits in the device that is reading the messages from OBD-II? Because for example, for Volkswagen, we got VCDS, and is there a chance that this software is probably reading everything that car could send, or it's still somehow limited by hardware?
Okay, first, OBD is just a connector. So, and two wires of it are connected directly to the CAN bus. But also, you have different CAN buses inside of your car. So it only connects you to this part, which basically the state needs to check for your emissions, like the engine, the transmission, the catalytic inverter, and stuff like this. So, yeah, there are different ways, but also Canvas is it is just a two-wire connector. So if you know in which network it is, you can basically bypass it.
Okay, thank you.
And also, when you're in a workshop, I have one of the workshop devices which is not connected to the OBD. This is connected directly to the Canvas. Just find me later.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So, sorry? Yeah. Yeah. So there are different ways. I mean, and it's really, it depends on the company. So, thank you very much. Have a nice
Thank you,
confidence.
Thomas, for a great presentation, raising so many questions.